Recently, I had the privilege of going to Korea for the Sakyadhita conference, the 18th conference. And the title of the conference was Living in a Precarious World, Impermanence, Resilience, and Awakening. So this conference was just so incredible in my experience that what I'm going to share today is just so tiny that you actually won't get a feel for it. There's no way for me to be able to convey it. And that's why I really encourage you to go to one of these conferences when you can, because it's really a rich experience. Our Korean hosts planned this amazingly. 3,000 participants attended, and there had to be at least 1,000 volunteers. And of course, I don't speak Korean, but I was watching people very carefully. And the registration process, they fed 3,000 people 2 times a day. And then on Sunday, the 3rd day of the conference, they fed 5,000 people. I don't know who all those people were, but there were musicians and technicians for the stage and volunteers and dignitaries. So how do you do that? And it was all smooth and peaceful. And if there were words being said, of course, I don't understand Korean, but everyone was moving smoothly through space. No one was running, raising their voice. It was all seamless in my experience. So they filled the days in the mornings, there were 5 papers presented, and they did it in a very, very wise way. They had all 5 presenters on this stage, and it's a state-of-the-art stage in their convention center in Seoul. And so all the presenters were there. They would just come up one after another. It was a bit difficult because I think a lot of the audience was in the same state that I was, that we were jet-lagged just getting there and trying to follow the script, even though, the script was in front of us with the book, was a bit demanding. And I have to admit, not a lot went in. So I'm going to look forward to reading those presentations because there were 5 in a row. And then, there would be lunch, and in the afternoon there were the workshops. One of the reasons that I went was that Venerable Jampa and I, who now lives in Germany, we presented a workshop at the conference. And the workshops were on topics that were just vast. There was one that was called intentional laughing. There were movement sessions. There's kimchi making. There's, drawing. There's art. And people just love these, varieties of things. And we were presenting, once you're ordained, what happens next. And we described what happens next at the Abbey for training. And it was really fun. And what we didn't anticipate was that we got a Korean translator. So we had, probably 5 hours of material planned and a slideshow and 2 videos. And then we discover about 2 minutes before our session started that we have a translator. This woman was magnificent. And I should back up. Of course, when you've got video and a slideshow with technology in a foreign country and you've got everything backed up everywhere, you know what's going to happen. It's not going to work. So they call in the technician. And now it's about 22 minutes before we start. And I'm starting to get a little bit nervous because I wanted people to see the slideshow and the 2 videos. And then he was having trouble with it. And then we swapped out machines. And we got my laptop going. And he said, "Oh, man, we've got to call the engineer." And now it's 5 minutes before our presentation. So they call in the engineer, and I have to admit, Venerable Champa too was surprised. And this just shows you our social conditioning. Who shows up? A female engineer. And she was fantastic, but I have to admit, I went, "Oh, great." And she figured it out, and then we had 1 minute to start time. So then we had to compress all this material even further because we have this magnificent Korean translator. So that really takes up some time. But how did I know she was magnificent since I don't speak the language? Well, half the room at least was filled with Korean nuns, and they were all nodding and smiling, and the only word she had trouble with was anagarika. How about that? The only word. So it was really fun to do that. I forgot to confess during our recent posada because my mind has still been affected by jet lag, I know. It's not really an excuse, but there were 2 evenings of music. And the music that was presented were at the top. I don't know if it was just Korean, because one of the presenters was a woman from Mongolia, and her name is Dakini Kunze. Anyway, she was a beautiful chanter. So it might have been the top Asian artists in the area. And so I really, really enjoyed that. I know that the whole audience enjoyed it. And on the second night, when it was just a music cultural sharing, I was sitting right beside a Korean woman. I tried to sit beside non-Tibetan Buddhist nuns as much as I could, because we all flock together anyway, so that happens just with the color. But I wanted to get, talking to some other people at the conference. And so I was sitting beside this woman and her daughter, and this woman was behaving like a 16-year-old at a concert. She was just screaming and crying and cheering, and she had a fantastic time. So it was really fun to talk to her. And, she had about 5 words of English, and I had no Korean. But it was so nice to just make these connections. Even, just sitting with people and smiling, you have that connection. So there's many, many things to relate about, the papers. But I think the one presentation that really stood out was a nun from the UK described her experience of going for full ordination in Bhutan in 2022. And so I'm going to now refer to my script so that I don't miss some important points here. Let's see. Yeah. So this ordination came about due to the royalty in Bhutan, specifically due to the person they fondly referred to as the Queen Mother. So her name is Ashi Tsering Yangdan Wangchuk. Now, she is the mother of the current king. So when you've got some power, and you've got royalty status, and you've got money, and you've got a son who listens to you, and you have the karma to be interested in supporting Buddhist nuns in your country, look what she's done. So, there's some causes and conditions that came before that, so I'm just going to read 2 of them. In 1995, the Queen Mother founded the Beichung Society. This is a society for the advancement of nuns and social service. So that's quite some time ago. And then in 2009, she also founded the Bhutan Nuns Foundation. And this is a foundation that works to improve the living conditions for Bhutanese girls and women in nunneries, and to enhance their knowledge and education, especially for Buddhist nuns. So you've got that background of hers running. So you can imagine one day, maybe she's sitting down with her son and her daughter-in-law, the Queen. Guess what we're going to do? We are going to make sure that the nuns in this country get full ordination, aren't we? So they went, and as a group of 3, they went and made a royal supplication asking His Holiness Je Khenpo, the head of the Dragpa Kagyu lineage, to grant full ordination to those who have already received the Shramanerica ordination. He agreed to do this. And so this set the stage. And then in June of last year, 2022, he ordained 144 women. 144 women got full ordination in the Tibetan tradition. Now, 20 of those nuns, this is really important and very interesting, were from Ladakh and Tassijong. And then there was this one nun from the UK. So it is their hope that this will happen every 2 years. I think there were indications given at the time that he's very interested in continuing with doing this for nuns when he's requested. I'd like to read to you what he told the nuns on their ordination day that is just beautiful. And this is just a portion of it. I'll just read a little bit of it. Over 2,500 years ago, although the Bhikshuni community flourished in India, it did not continue on to Tibet when the Buddha Dharma spread there. Thus, it was widely claimed that Bhikshuni transmission did not exist in Tibet. Consequently, some people who held this view thought that women could not therefore have the opportunity to become Bhikshunis, as if it were a fire that had been extinguished or water that dried up. Such a view, I think, is incorrect. As I hold the title of the Je Khenpo, I bear the responsibility of preserving and promoting the doctrinal and practice tradition of the precious Buddha's teachings in Bhutan. His Majesty, the Dharma King, Jigme Kesar Namgyal Wangchuk, doesn't mention the Queen Mother, out of his magnanimous concern for the women who have entered the path of Dharma, but were deprived of the opportunity to receive full ordination, even though there are many monasteries for women in Bhutan, has entrusted me to revive the Bhikshuni ordination. I have chosen to conduct the Bhikshuni ordination through the Sangha of male Bhikshu monks of the Mula Savara lineage. As long as it is supported by the Buddha's Vinaya scriptures and the ritual is conducted following its intended purpose, there is no need for any further approval. It is not the time to engage in debates, negating one thing while affirming another, but it is a time for realizing opportune priorities of the purposes and benefits and putting them into action. There is no reason for any fear or offense. The enlightened activities of the Buddha are taught for the fundamental benefit of all sentient beings. Therefore, each one of you who have received the Bhikshuni ordination need not have any doubt at all that you have obtained the vows. One must also know that this is not the creation of a new ritual practice that contradicts the Buddha Dharma, using the authority of the king or the spiritual head of Bhutan. So I'm sure that the nuns hearing that were really moved by that and reassured, because this topic has continued to be debated and will continue to be debated. But there's no doubt in his mind that this is something he's totally committed to doing for women. So that was a very special presentation, and hearing her experiences, Venerable Deki. And then in another day, when one of the presenters wasn't able to come, they showed a short clip of this momentous occasion. I can't possibly capture everything. It was so impressive to be with all of these Buddhist women, supporting each other, people being able to present their papers, their research, and not having, feedback from other people that maybe slam them or try and discredit them or whatever happens out there in the world of academia. But there's just people there supporting them. We would cross the road. So there was the convention center, and then across the street was the temple. And this is where the feeding of the monastics happened. And this temple is a very old temple. I'm going to mispronounce the name of it. Let's see. I think it's something like Bungasa Temple. It's a whole complex. And so we'd be waiting at the stoplight, to wait and cross the road, and there's 6 lanes of traffic, and all these nuns and lay women just converging across the crosswalk all at one time. No one was jaywalking, I noticed. We were waiting for the light. 6 lanes of traffic, there's a bit more of a risk. And people drive very fast there. Let's see, what else to share this time? Going back to the feeding of all of these people, they made it an eco-friendly event. They gave everybody who came a cup. So there were no paper cups or anything. We were eating off of actual plates, Pyrex plates and bowls. We had metal chopsticks and metal spoons. Somebody was washing 3,000 plus dishes twice a day. I'm sure that people were up through the night cooking breakfast, and preparing lunch. So it was a massive undertaking that I'm sure took years to plan, and it just came off so beautifully. And so I'm sure that everyone who went to this gathering is so touched by, by the experience. And I wanted to start with something, so I'll back up now, to give people some context for this conference. So way back in 1987, Venerable Children, I understand you were there, and Venerable Sangye Kadra was there, and you presented a paper. I just want to give you some context for Sakyadhita, which means daughters of the Buddha. So this is written by Venerable Jampa Sedrin in Germany. Many people are asking why this international conference on Buddhist nuns in Bodh Gaya, that's where it happened, has been attracting so much attention. No doubt one reason is the fact this gathering is the first conference of Buddhist nuns to have taken place in India since the time of Buddha Shakyamuni. It is known that the bhikshus came together for several councils after the Buddha passed into final nirvana, but there is no evidence that bhikshunis played any role at these councils. Nevertheless, Buddha Shakyamuni taught that all sentient beings have the same potential, Buddha nature, to obtain enlightenment, and women today have more freedom than ever to explore and develop this potential. His Holiness the Dalai Lama was at this gathering as well. And he made the comment, let's see, I think it's on this page. He assured everyone present that many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas were viewing the conference and that we have faith that they will guide our endeavors in the future. Since our efforts are aimed at spreading the teachings for the benefit of humanity, we are confident that conditions will unfold favorably. So, as a self-labeled introvert, I noticed on the plane ride home that not once I noticed having the need to escape from the crowds. I usually feel that way, even here at the Abbey sometimes. I'm in overwhelm. But that never happened once. So maybe the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas outnumbered all the sentient beings that were there. But anyway, it was just such a welcoming, warm environment. And it was hilarious in moments. You know, you're Caucasian in these robes, and you're walking somewhere, and the Asian nuns pull you over, they drag you over and pull you into a photo, and they say, come, 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 come. So that was wonderful. And then every now and then at the temple complex, all of these Korean women are around. Everyone is greeting you like this. And then every now and then these older women come up and take you by the face and go, there were no cultural barriers at this conference. It was wonderful. I encourage everyone to go.
Are they making videos of the presentations available?
I don't know. I thought I'd write to Venerable Soeul and ask. It would be great. Then you'll really get a feel for it. Including the concerts. Including the bhikshunis who made music. Who are professionally trained. They're really good.